Peace, everybody. It's Earth Angel Hills here, and tonight, because it's nighttime where I'm at, I don't know what time you'll be watching this video, but tonight I want to talk about the Saturn return and what it means. I'm actually at the beginning of my Saturn return, even though it feels like it started a little bit like edging up last year. I'm starting to feel it more right now. So for those of you who don't know, we'll go over what does Saturn mean, the planet in your natal chart for astrology, and then we'll also go over what it means when it returns to its original position that it was at when you were born, and the things you can expect during this time in your life. So to start off, Saturn is one of the planets that one of the major planets in the sky that we kind of take into account when we're looking at your natal or birth chart in astrology. And it represents a part of ourself that deals with time. It's the father of time in Greek mythology or whatnot. And it also deals with boundaries. Saturn has these rings around it. So you can look at those rings as boundaries or layers of the self. Now, don't quote me on this. I need to look it up. But I think Saturn has 7 rings. Let me check. How many rings does Saturn have? Yeah, Saturn has 7 main rings, labeled A through G. And I honestly like to look at these rings as in correlation with our chakras. We have 7 main chakras now. You know, there's people who think we have way more than 7, and I would not disagree with that. But I think those 7 chakras and how they relate to Saturn kind of relate to the layers of ourselves. And the different densities that we have within us and our being. And when I think about Saturn traveling around our natal chart, around our will, I think about Saturn helping us to develop each part of our 7 main chakras throughout our lifetime. And so, yeah, some of the words you can associate with Saturn would be boundaries, restrictions, obstacles, reward, achievement, status, seriousness, maturity, time management, routine, coldness, slowing down. Those are some of the words that you can associate with Saturn. And basically, to kind of give you a reference of how this operates in your natal chart, when you think about the sun takes 365 days to make a revolution to get back to its original spot. So when you were born in November, because that's when I was born, then the sun is here in the Scorpio constellation. It's on that part of the sky. And then it travels to Sag, to Capricorn, to Aquarius, to Pisces, Aries, and it keeps going until it gets back to Scorpio, which will have been 12 months. So Saturn, it starts off, in my chart, it started off in Aries when I was born. So when I took my first breath in this realm, Saturn was in the Aries constellation. And so Saturn takes not 365 days, but 30 years to make that revolution to get back to where it began. Okay, 29.5 years is what they say. So that's how long it takes to get back to where it was when you were born. And so Saturn moves pretty slow, because the slower something moves, the more it can pay attention to details. You know, it's like Saturn is like the tortoise, and you could think of like Mars or Mercury as the hare, which is going through really fast. But Saturn is taking its time to go through each one of these houses to teach you something in them. And I like to think of it as like, by the time Saturn returns and gets back home to its home base where it was when you were born, it's asking you these serious questions. Have you taken all of the lessons that I've been showing you into account? If you have, here is your great reward. However, if you haven't, then we got to start over from scratch. Who wants to start over from scratch, right? Maybe some people do. Maybe some people want a brand new start and new challenges, carrying challenges from the past into the future. Saturn also, and this is my own interpretation. I say Saturn crystallizes things because it represents coldness, and I feel like it's going through each house and turning it cold, 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 bringing this coldness, and it's crystallizing you. So when you're younger, you're operating more so out of your moon energy, your emotional energy, your your darker energy. And then as you get older, you start to operate more out of your sun energy. So like I have a Virgo moon, so most of what I've been doing up until now is like instinctually acting out of that Virgo energy, versus as I get older, you'll start to see me display more of the Scorpio characteristics. And I actually see how that's happening through my Saturn return, because it's teaching me the areas in which I need to mature and use my Scorpio energy to protect me from the naivety or like just like sort of mindless decisions that I could make with my emotional energy versus using my more logical, because the sun is more logical, the moon is more emotional, feminine, logical, masculine is the sun. So I said a lot. Saturn it's making that revolution. So by the time you turn 30, you will have matured in your ways. And for those who took the lessons of Saturn into account, it's like a good crystallization, because like it crystallizes the things. Saturn rules the bones, so that builds your structures. So when you're like a baby and your head is still soft, if they shape your head into a cone, you will be walking around like a cone head, because like if it's not shapened into, like some people's head gets shaped and maybe into weird forms during that stage. So like it's important to kind of like shape it in the right way when you're a baby, because over time that soft spot in the baby's head that has that pulse or whatever, it starts to grow bone and become crystallized. And honestly, I think that's what Saturn is doing in the chart, is starting to develop our skull and crystallize it and kind of seal off that vulnerability that our brain or whatever had to the world. You probably heard people talk about that, like how you're not making fully actualized decisions underneath a certain age in your 20 because your brain is still, your skull is still developing or whatever. But yes, that is what we think about when we think about Saturn. And from my own personal experience so far, it feels like Saturn is stretching me. And it's so funny because like I'm sitting on my yoga mat right now, and in this stage of my life, I've been doing a lot of yoga, stretching, mindful movement, and I feel like Saturn is pulling me. Now, in my personal natal chart, I have Saturn opposing Venus, so it already has this natural opposition feel between those two planets that I feel throughout my whole life, but I feel this kind of tug in a different kind of way. And Saturn is, in each moment, each decision, showing me the pull of how a thing can benefit me and how a thing can harm me, how a thing can reward me and how a thing could demote me or keep me stuck or stagnant. So it's like so bittersweet, I feel like, going through your Saturn return if you're conscious of the way it's growing you. But honestly, I feel like it's a beautiful thing because I have Saturnian energy myself. I have Saturn in the 7th house, and Saturn is exalted in the 7th house, meaning it's like at its strongest point. So I'm used to working with Saturn energy, so it's not that hard for me, because I feel like as long as you can slow down during this time of your life and really process the lessons of Saturn, then you can really benefit and not have to experience pain and sorrow that sometimes Saturn brings. Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn, and Capricorn can experience really deep depression because it's so far out away from the sun. Saturn is, well, it's not like, I don't know how far, but it's not the closest planet to the sun, so it doesn't have a lot of light from the sun coming to it, but it has its own solar system, and it's at the time of the year where things are more depressed. Like, I'm a Scorpio, and Scorpio is more depressed sign versus Aries or Gemini, Taurus. Those are not as depressed. They're more uplifted, up, type of energy. But when you're going through your Saturn return, I guess it's really a time to get grounded and really get acquainted with what the ground feels like and what reality feels like. It's definitely a reality check. Saturn returning will bring you a reality check. And it's interesting because right now, like, as I'm experiencing my Saturn return, Saturn is all about reality, but like a planet like Neptune is not so much about reality. It's more about imagination, illusions, delusions, and Saturn happens to be in Pisces right now. So it's kind of like it's bringing this sort of reality feel to this mystical, illusionary kind of space. And I'll have to make a whole nother video about how Saturn operates in Pisces, but it also can help you bring your dreams and stuff into reality. So that is a cool thing. Everybody's Saturn return will have a different kind of flavor, but I think that's pretty cool how, for me, Saturn will bring this like flavor of, like, because it started for me, and it's in Pisces, so it is a time where I can bring my dreams to fruition, to reality, to concrete material things. However, there's work involved. That's another thing with Saturn. You think about work. When you talk about Saturn, you kind of are going to be thinking about Capricorn and what that represents. And Capricorn represents the goat. And the goat is always the mountain goat. It's like climbing up this mountain. And the higher you get up to mountains, it's like probably less vegetation or some kind of weird kind of vegetation. Like maybe you'll find some fruit cactuses or something or whatever. But goats can actually eat objects that aren't edible, I guess, and still survive. So that's kind of how you think about the Capricorn energy. It's like Capricorn will do whatever it can to survive because it's all about preservation. Scorpio is about preservation too. So those like signs, Capricorn and Scorpio, are really based on preserving the self, and that's what sets them apart from other signs. And the different desires that can arise in other signs or temptations can kind of be less focused on for Scorpio or Capricorn if it doesn't involve preserving the self, which is kind of like a superpower in a way. But also, there's other things that you want to enjoy in life. But yeah, that's a whole nother side note. I said a lot about the Saturn return. It's definitely dealing with reality, having a reality check, and realizing what is this reality that I've created or that I have been experiencing, and what will the next part of my life look like? What will the next 30 years look like? Because in another 30 years, you'll be experiencing your second Saturn return. And have I been seeing things clearly? And what adjustments do I need to make in order to create the reality that I want to experience? Saturn is not like this evil planet that, it is represented by the devil, but it's not necessarily like this planet that wants to be an opposing force for you. It's kind of just like, if you can't beat it, join it. And Saturn wants you to kind of join forces to just set you up to be self-sufficient and be able to like not have to struggle or not have to like be in indecision or in confusion about what life is. And it's asking you to ask these important questions like, what does life mean to me? And why am I here? What's my purpose? How will I contribute all of my works to not only myself but to my community because next you have Aquarius after Capricorn, which is like, okay, what works have I done, and what status have I built, and how can I use these things to benefit the collective. So yeah, like, totally rambling. There'll be more videos to come. Please comment and let me know like what you think about this video. If you're going through your Saturn return or you already went through it, how was it for you? And if you have any pointers, point them out. Also, if you want me to talk about certain topics, let me know. Perhaps it would be nice for me to like do a video about the effects of Saturn through your houses, because right now it's in my 6th house, and I've definitely felt that energy like every inch of the way of it being in my 6th house. I even felt what it felt like in the beginning with more ease, and how it progressed through it and it became more serious. And I was like, oh my God, Saturn is definitely in my 6th house right now, which deals with health, wellness, routines. And next, for my like big bang of my Saturn return, it'll be entering into my 7th house, which deals with relationships. It's like the Libra energy house, and it deals with contracts and balance and other things. But yes, if you want to hear anything specific, let me know. Hope you enjoyed this. I love talking about astrology, the self, and every time I get in front of this camera, I ask myself, how can I benefit the greater collective with the knowledge that I know, the wisdom that I've acquired throughout life, and the current things that I'm experiencing in my life that others might be experiencing as well. If you like this video, make sure you like it in the comments below. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, comment, do what you need to do. And hopefully you are making videos too. Share what you know so we can all grow. All right, y'all, I'm out.